3 years ago, my husband and I are sitting at breakfast one morning, and he looks at me and says, "Honey, I think I want to move to Florida. You want to come with me?" And that rocked my world. If somebody was going to ask me where I would want to move to if I ever left Indiana, I would tell them Utah, Montana, Colorado, certainly not Florida. But 4 months later, we had packed up our house and sold it. We sold most of our belongings, and down to Florida we moved. At the time, that seemed like a really good idea for both my husband's business and the idea of getting away from the cold and the snow of the Midwest. I did do a lot of research on where in the state of Florida we would want to move to before we ever came down here. And lo and behold, Palm Bay kept showing up again and again in my searches. So sure enough, Palm Bay is where we moved to. Fast forward 3 years, we have new friends, new jobs, we're happy as can be. And when somebody asks me if this was a good thing, I immediately say yes. I am very happy in Florida. Hi, my name is Lee Johnson, and I'm with Brownfield Real Estate Group. I am a realtor here in Brevard County, and my favorite clients are the ones that are thinking about relocating just like you are. It really gives me an opportunity to help get to know them and find the right location just for that person. If you're thinking about relocating and these videos are helping you, please take a moment to subscribe to my channel and like this video so that you'll see more of them in the future. I also have a brand new relocation guide that you'll find the information to down in the comments below. Please feel free to click on that link as well. It's full of information. You'll find lots of links within the guide, so it has even more information once you click on those links. Now let's get back to talking about what it's like to move all the way from the Midwest or the North down to Florida. One of the other things that people ask me about is, what is the cost of living like in comparison to where you were? Isn't it really hard to adjust, and how much more money do you need to make? Well, for us, it's really not all that different. Yes, home prices are definitely higher down here. We knew that obviously simply by looking online to see what home values were and what things were going for. We could tell it was going to cost us more. So we were prepared for that before we ever started actually looking for serious at homes to buy something. But when it comes to day-to-day living in terms of groceries, dining, entertainment, all those kinds of things, there's really not all that much difference. Now, no, I did not live in a smaller community, and I lived right outside of Indianapolis in a very nice suburb. So we were sort of big city, small town kind of a relationship, talking about moving from Indiana to Florida. A lot of people think all of Indiana is cornfields, which a lot of it is, but not all of it. So it really kind of depends on what your cost of living is, where you live now. I certainly have a lot of people that move down here and have cash in hand because the home value that they sold versus what they want to buy down here is so significantly more that moving to Florida is actually an inexpensive choice to make. So it really kind of depends on where you are and what your cost of living is and what kind of a price range you want to stay within. But definitely do your research first before you think about moving down here and make sure this is the right choice for you. Palm Bay. It's not Orlando. It's not Miami. It's not even Tampa. It's a smaller community, although it's growing rapidly. It's on the coast, which is wonderful in my book. We get Florida breezes and all kinds of other wonderful things about living near the water. But it's not a big city. It's a much smaller city than some of the other areas I mentioned. As a matter of fact, Palm Bay is the lesser known of the two when we talk about Melbourne or Palm Bay, which is just north of us. Melbourne is what's better known, even though it's a much smaller town than Palm Bay. And that is because Palm Bay is known as a bedroom community. There's not a lot of shopping or restaurants or anything like that. As a matter of fact, when we want to go out for dinner or something, we drive to Melbourne. Since I had already lived in the suburbs of Chicago and outside of Manhattan, the drive to go from Palm Bay to Melbourne to go out for dinner or to go to Satellite Beach to go see friends or something like that did not ever strike me as being a big deal. In the Space Coast, there is space to breathe. There are people who wave hi. Yes, people still actually do that. And it's not all about strip malls, although we do have a lot of really cute strip malls around here. And you really don't mind the strip malls so much when the weather is so beautiful and there are so many places to be able to walk outside and do your shopping. Plus, the area is growing like crazy. There's new schools, new shopping, new restaurants popping up every day, and that is going to continue to happen. Now let's talk about the big move. I came from Indiana, home of cornfields, wild temperature swings, and snow. Lots of snow. As a matter of fact, right now in Indiana, it's about -6 degrees. You're bundled up to like the Michelin man at 6 o'clock in the morning, shoveling the snow just to be able to get to work on time, and you're cold. Meanwhile, in Florida, I am in a sweater because it's about 64 degrees today, but that's a lot better than -6, and I'll take it any day of the week. As a matter of fact, I really like the seasonal changes of temperature. I didn't want to move to southern Florida, not only because of the prices down there, but because I like the idea of still having seasons where it's not beastly hot all year round, but we still get fabulous weather in the summer, and it's not so cold in the winter that I can't go outside and enjoy it simply by throwing on a sweater. I love wearing sandals, even to work, because everybody does. Most of the time, the average temperatures range between 40 and 90 degrees, which gives you pleasant temperatures without the huge swings that you get when it's 50 during the day and -6 at night in Indiana. Yes, the summers do get humid, just like they do in Indiana, and they last a little bit longer with the humidity down here than you might get in the Midwest. As a matter of fact, the hottest month of the year is July, where it is averaging about 87 degrees, 74 at night, but we get over 215 days of sunshine every year. One of the other big differences that struck me after being here a little while is it's sunny all the time. And yes, it's called sunny Florida, and you think about it being sunny, but when you're from where I'm from, and it is gray for the better part of November, December, January, February, on into May sometimes, the idea of having sunny skies over 200 days of the year is an amazing thing. Now, today, we've had more clouds than usual for the past 4 or 5 days. But even having said that, it's sunny outside right now. So even on a mostly cloudy day, you still see sunshine and it's beautiful and bright. And it really lifts your mood and makes the day feel a lot more pleasant. Let's talk about the big windy elephant in the room now, hurricanes. When it comes to weather, hurricanes are the first thing anybody talks about when you talk about living in Florida. Yes, they do happen. But the big difference is that with hurricanes, there's a lot of warning time. You have time to prepare, go get your water and your canned foods and all your snack foods, because everybody gains about 5 pounds when they're preparing for a hurricane. But if you want to compare that to a tornado in the Midwest, we have lots of time to think about whether or not we need to leave or just put up the storm shutters, how long we might be without electricity. Whereas in Indiana, a tornado can happen in moments and without much warning at all. So when it comes to thinking about whether or not I want to live in an area that might have a hurricane, I did do my research, and I found out that one of the reasons why the government put NASA here is because we're within 30 miles of the Gulf Stream, which allows a weather pattern a little more time and ability to change direction or change patterns before it comes to landfall down here, which greatly reduces the chances of hurricanes hitting the coast of this part of Florida. That's also why Port Canaveral, which is one of the largest cruise ship ports in the world, is located right here in Brevard County. And you know what? I'll take the possibility of a hurricane or two a year over 5 months worth of snow and gloom and cold just about any day of the week. Plus, modern homes are built to withstand the higher winds that hurricanes often bring with it. So while it's definitely something to consider, it's not a deal breaker for me. I'd still rather be down here than have to deal with the snow and ice in the Midwest. Let's talk about homesickness, because it is real. Yes, I do miss the family that I left behind in the Midwest. I miss my friends. I miss the familiarity. I still drive just about everywhere I go with GPS down here. One of the things that makes it livable is knowing how quickly I can get home and how reasonably priced it is. Now, we rarely go home for the holidays. It's nuts when it comes to going to the airport around Christmas time in Orlando. Don't even get me started. Everybody decides they want to go to Disney World for Christmas. But most of the year, not only is the fact that we're a destination for a whole lot of states, make it great flight patterns and availability, but it also makes the flights very reasonable. So I can get home to Indiana for just a couple of $100 with very little time thinking about it before I book. Knowing that I have that availability really makes it a lot easier to be down here. I know my family's doing just fine without me in Indiana. One of the things that really makes Palm Bay feel like home for us is the fact that it's a very strong military community here. My husband is a veteran, he's ex-Navy, and because Florida has a number of military bases all over the place from Jacksonville on down, there's a strong, not only veteran community, but active military community. About 2 years ago, after we had moved down here, we found out that my husband had cancer. And the VA hospital in Lake Nona, which is almost exactly an hour's drive from here to there, was an absolute blessing. Knowing that we had such a strong medical system and veteran system behind us that took care of him during all the operations and the chemo and the radiation. And now with the follow-up right here in Vieira, just up the road, it's been a real blessing to know it's there and to know that they really kind of had our backs when we needed it. And because we're close to Patrick Space Force Base, We also see a lot of active duty military when we go out. And I really like that, and I know my husband does too. It's inspiring to see young people dressed up in their clothes, and to know that they have the kind of commitment to defend our country that continues to this day. Now to get to the fun stuff. What is there to do in Palm Bay? You name the water activity, and I guarantee you it's here. It doesn't matter whether you're talking about kayaking, fishing, both freshwater and saltwater, wakeboarding, surfing, swimming, just about any of it, boating. It's available right here in this area. And let's not forget the beach. One of my favorite things to do on the weekends or even really early in the morning is to get up and go watch the sunrise. There's something really peaceful and inspiring about just sitting on the beach and watching the sun come over the horizon, over the Atlantic Ocean. It's a great way to start the day, and it's 20 minutes from my house. For the land lovers, there are parks, trails, horseback riding, pickleball, tennis, basketball, lots of outdoor activities, even if you're not a water person per se. For me, it's all about nature and enjoying the native plants and the native animals. When I lived in Indiana, we had a lot of gardens. I grew most of my own vegetables and herbs, and I really look forward to coming down here and figuring out how to do that here. It has taken a bit of a learning curve, and I don't have it quite figured out just yet. But one of the things we did do, we tore up all the gardens in front of our house and we put in all new native plants. We left lots of space between all the plants because we just weren't sure how fast it would all grow. And boy, are we glad that we did. Because in 1 year's time, it now looks like a fully established garden that has been around for years. So things happen quickly here, but that's what makes it so beautiful. Of course, there's always Orlando to consider too. Whether you're talking Universal Studios, Legoland, Disney World, one of the animal theme parks, just tons of things to do from an entertainment standpoint. And of course, that's lots of shows and restaurants and all kinds of neat things. And that's an hour to 2 hours, depending on where you're going. So it's a day trip, or maybe at most it's a weekend adventure. So it's just a great thing to have just outside your back door. Now, if you're a sports lover, let me tell you what all we have in Florida. This state has 3 NFL teams, 2 Major League Baseball teams, 2 NBA teams, 2 National Hockey League teams, and let's not forget that they also have 2 Major League Soccer teams, 3 women's soccer teams, and many more minor league teams. And I haven't even begun to tell you about all the college teams that are down here. So if you're a sports fan, we have it down here. And of course, we're centrally located. So no matter who you cheer for, it's not that much more of a jaunt to go than if you lived, let's say, in central Illinois and you were a Bears fan or something like that. It's just a few hours drive to go to the Tampa and see the Devil Rays or the Buccaneers. It's only a few hours down to Miami just to even go see the Miami Dolphins. So lots of sports opportunities if you're a fan. Okay, yes, you can certainly say, why not just live in Miami or Tampa or Jacksonville? You'll get a lot more sports and entertainment and theater and all kinds of other things than you might get here. We do have some of it, but not to the degree that the big cities have. Personally, I would much rather live here where it's a smaller population, it's not as busy, it's not nearly as expensive, the traffic isn't as bad, but that's my preference. It's up to you to decide which way is better for you. So overall, the real question is, am I happy with living here in Florida? And the answer is absolutely yes. Matter of fact, my husband and I had a conversation about whether or not we wanted to eventually move back home at some point. And I said to him, no, you know what? I'm really happy living here and I'm not going to move. So if you're considering moving down here, I would say go for it. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you might have while you're making that decision-making process. And in fact, don't forget that I have a relocation guide that you can download. All you have to do is go down into the comments on this video and you can click on the link, and from there you'll get the download. There are a lot of things to consider before you make the move to make sure it's a good move for you. We made those decisions. We're happy with our decision, and we look forward to having a glass with wine with you in the near future right down the street.